Hey there, all things MSP crew. We have another video update here for you today. And this one is a first because it is our very first elite sponsor and it is the very first video update for Coreview. And representing Coreview today is Gill Langston. Gill and I had the pleasure of working with each other in the past. We were both head nerds over at SolarWinds. And, we're back together working and looking forward to it.
Eric, it's really good to see you. Yeah, I'm excited to be on the screen with you again after all this time.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute, hasn't it?
Indeed, it has.
So I guess we should open up with kind of you just introducing yourself and your history, because you have a deep history in the channel, and then also kind of Coreview, its mission, and what it's trying to accomplish in helping MSPs.
And absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I have a kind of rich experience with managed services, going back to the days when GFI acquired Hound Dog, and we're doing everything from support to sales, marketing, and more recently, product management, where I've managed several products that were focused on the needs of managed services, the unique business model that they operate in. I really enjoy talking all things MSP, if you will. So I'm really glad to be here. And more recently, I've joined Coreview, and Coreview's focus is helping kind of tame what is M365 these days, right? To kind of address some of the challenges around management, visibility, security when it comes to managing M365 configurations and items within the tenant itself. So totally focused on helping tame the Microsoft 365 challenges for MSPs.
Yeah, definitely something, because most of the clients that small to medium sized businesses have are using Microsoft 365, and therefore the MSPs can generate a lot of operational efficiencies. I'm going to bring that up because I was the head operations nerd. Into their environment. And of course, we know that operational efficiencies drive profit margins, which is extremely important. So give me a little overview of the solutions that Coreview offers.
Yeah, so you absolutely nailed it, right? A lot of the focus here is around operational efficiency and visibility. So Coreview has two main solutions, right? So one of them is called Simian Cloud. Simian Cloud is focused on, consider all the configurations you would have in your client's tenants, right? Everything from identity governance, password settings, MFA requirements, that kind of thing, kind of the high level configuration. So Simian Cloud, essentially, you can install it directly into your Azure DevOps M365 tenant as an MSP, and then you can load in your client's tenants as well. The idea being is that you have a baseline, right? Obviously, one of the things about operational efficiency is you want to have a kind of standardized set of settings that you manage to. So you can set up that baseline with the right security settings. We even worked with CIS to come up with a nice security baseline as well. And the idea is that then you can compare on a regular basis the drift, is what we like to call it, of any of those tenants, any settings that have changed, configurations that have changed. You can identify those and then decide, do I want to remediate those, bring them back to that baseline? Or if you're doing some test work in one individual tenant for a client, and then you want that to be part of your baseline, you can actually choose to push that back into your baseline and then spread that out to all your tenants. So, if you think about the amount of time that anyone who's managing multiple tenants spends clicking through, there's risk there. There's human error concerns. Did I miss a tenant or two? So this kind of removes all of those challenges, increases the efficiency. As you know, I like to say clicks are currency for MSPs. And if you could save time, you're saving money and you'll be able to focus on other projects. Now, the other solution we have is Coreview itself. So when I first looked at Coreview, I said, this really, to me, looks a lot like an RMM for M365 in the way that, essentially what we're doing with Coreview is using Graph API and PowerShell. We're pulling in all the information about the items within the tenant, the user information, permissions, that goes to SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. And we're taking a look at all of those settings and then generating reports for you. So you have this governance dashboard where you can kind of see licenses that are not being used in X amount of time, right? That's very important for organizations. But also some of those settings configurations. And then you can use our out of the box playbooks to where you can decide what you want a desired state to be If something is out of that state, you can resolve it, right? That's very similar to monitoring and management, right? So you can address those concerns, but you can also go deeper and create custom workflows. I'll give you an example. Onboarding workflow. You want to bring somebody into the one of your client organizations. What do you have to do, right? You have to set them up with an account in M365. You have to assign them a OneDrive and configure that. There's a whole step of things that generally are managed on a spreadsheet. Well, you could create a workflow for this, automate that. And the way that Coreview works is you have a partner app, you have a master tenant, you set up all your workflows and playbooks in that master tenant, and then you can push them down to your client tenants that you're managing underneath. So you could kind of decide which one of those playbooks, which one of those workflows would be assigned to your client tenants. And then, of course, you can, for example, send an email to a manager to approve the onboarding. That starts the workflow process, completes everything, lets them know when it's done, and then the user gets all of their information. So, that's going to save several hours in a day if you're onboarding even 1 or 2 employees for all of your clients. So it's a really great solution that allows you to govern all of these settings and controls within the tenant, and then show that value, right? Which is super important for a managed service provider.
Yeah. And, you used the word govern a few seconds ago, and govern kind of is a broader term that covers not only management, but also security, which is something you touched on as well. And security being paramount these days, how does Coreview kind of stay ahead in terms of innovation, especially concerning cybersecurity and those kinds of things?
That's a great question. I mean, for one, a lot of our playbooks are built around things like if you see something without MFA enabled, let's email the manager and tell them somebody doesn't have it enabled. They can say, please enable it, and we can force it back into compliance. So yes, watching the watchers is really important in security. That's really governance, right? Making sure all the settings that you've taken all this great care to design, configure, and roll out stay where they should be, and then getting reports when they go out. But also, we do focus a lot on the changing environment of Microsoft. As you know, they like to change things quite a bit. And a great example of this is, recently there was the announcement about the midnight blizzard attack, and they gave kind of a great summary of what happened. But we employ some Microsoft MVPs. We partner with Microsoft as well. So, we try to stay on top of all these changes that are happening. And in this case, for Midnight Blizzard, we actually created a script, a PowerShell script that you can run against, both your existing client environment, which is great to start a conversation about, improving security, but also for any prospective clients that you may have to kind of get that baseline about, well, what do we need to do to onboard you to our standards? But the idea is this script goes through, it identifies a lot of the app permissions that are risky, which is one of the things that was a concern there, as well as things like sharing settings that may be a little too loose. So that you could go in and shore those up, and then you could actually create items within Coreview to keep those shored up. So in fact, we're going to cover how to use that script in our monthly MSP Connect clinic that we run for all of our MSPs. We invite them once a month. We talk about things that are new, things that we've done, new research we've uncovered. So, we make sure we're going to cover that, show them how to run that script, and talk a little bit about how they can use that to better have conversations with their own clients as well. Awesome.
So speaking of innovation, what is the future roadmap of Coreview and or Simian Cloud?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of things on our roadmap. So, one of the things that we just rolled out was, Copilot. That's obviously a lot of concern for a lot of people. Yes, there's a lot of opportunity there with Copilot, but there are also concerns that organizations have. They're expensive licenses. How do I know the people that I want to use it are actually using it, right? That's one thing. But also, what risks are there with something that has access to my entire tenant? So we actually rolled out some kind of out-of-the-box configurations that will tell you how many people are using Copilot in the organization against your licenses. At the same time, we also identify SharePoint and OneDrive permissions that may be a little too loose that could, give access to sensitive data that you weren't aware of. So we just rolled that out. We're also, as we move forward, we're going to be rolling out new features in both Simian Cloud and Coreview. So within Simian Cloud, we're going to be focusing on Defender configuration, but also Azure infrastructure, which is really important to a lot of MSPs these days. So Those are the settings or the features in Simian Cloud we're going to be rolling out. And we're constantly taking a look at, how AI and of course Copilot are affecting people's experience with Microsoft. So this year that's what we're going to be looking into, as well as investigating API based integrations with PSAs and other MSP tools. We're going to be talking to our customers to see which ones are most important and focusing on those as well.
Okay, now let's kind of zoom out just a bit and talk about the challenges in general that MSPs are facing, and maybe then tie those back to how Coreview can help.
Sure. The M365 kind of is the cornerstone of a lot of managed service offerings, right? It's kind of the starting point when you're both building your service and how that's going to look, but also your day to day. I would argue that there have been some changes, even in Microsoft CSP program, that it kind of made it a little more difficult, I think, for MSPs to necessarily generate like front end profit margins from that. So, I would say one of the bigger challenges there is, okay, so how am I going to build a solution that allows me to ensure that I am managing this customer correctly, when they might be bringing their own license because they purchased from one of these larger CSPs that is kind of flooding the market now. So, I would say one of those biggest challenges there is, being able to have that management solution. And I've talked to a few of our partners that have said, Coreview actually works really well for that. Simian Cloud works really well for that because it allows me to kind of have a base for a management service that I roll into my packaging, that there's the value that I can drive to a customer. So, I would say that is a challenge, right? Just dealing with the changes in the Microsoft ecosystem, but also, it's the same challenges that you've talked about for years, right, Eric? It's about operational efficiency. That is where, you standardize. You then, what did you used to say? If you have to do something more than 3 times, you should automate it. Did I get that right? Yep, I remember. So think about all the things you have to do on a weekly basis that really should be automated. You're removing the risk for human error. You're ensuring that it's correct across all the clients. So it's the same challenges that MSPs have been facing since the term was coined. Bottom line is operational efficiency, being able to drive scalability, manage more, bring new clients into the organization and quickly onboard them instead of a long ramp up. And those are the things that we're focused on helping MSPs improve with our technology.
So, in my opinion, it looks like what it's happening is it creates the standardization. The standardization, as everybody knows, allows you to scale and allows you to be more efficient. But then it's also the monitoring of all of that to make sure that it stays in compliance, not just from a security standpoint, but from an operational standpoint as well.
Absolutely. And of course, there's the third leg to that stool, and that is being able to show proof of value to your clients over time, right? And so the reporting and the things that you can then generate from Coreview, from Simian Cloud that say, hey, here's what your money is getting you. Yes, things have been kind of trouble free and you haven't had to start a lot of tickets. Well, here's why.
Right.
I'm doing my job. The things you thought I should always be doing. Well, now I'm showing you that we're doing those. So it really helps with those, QBRs or regular reviews where you can supply that proof of value to your clients. And that makes them sticky.
Right. So if somebody wants to engage and find out more about Coreview, more about Simian Cloud, how do they do that?
So, I would say the easiest way is that we this year have started up our weekly demos. We call it Coreview Labs. Our MSP focused solution advisors do weekly demos. One week we do Coreview. The next week we do Simian Cloud. The idea is you could just show up to one of these on a Friday afternoon, kind of get a look at what's possible. Because there are so many things that are possible, and then you could kind of decide, I'd like to move forward with a trial. We could set you up with a one-on-one, get you going on your trial. But come to the demo first, see it in action. And we'll give you links to those demos there so that anybody, any of the audience wants to check it out, they can do so. Awesome.
So any closing thoughts, anything else you want to share with the All Things MSP community?
Well, one, I for one, Eric, I've known you for a while. I've really enjoyed watching your community grow. I'm really glad that you've developed such a community. I'm super excited to be a part of it. The bottom line is that anybody who's focused on managed services from a vendor perspective, like myself, understands that you absolutely have to add additional value to a managed service provider, right? You're not just selling some product. You're really helping them improve their operational efficiency, their ability to scale. And we're building a program at Coreview that is designed 100% to do that, from the demos to the Connect clinics where we talk about things that affect MSPs. So yeah, I'm super excited to be a part of the community. And, if you need anything at all or just want to talk, feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, Gill, I really appreciate you coming on and giving us that kind of core introduction to Coreview. Didn't mean that pun, but it happened anyway. And I'm really looking forward, by the way, to our first office hours so we can actually get a kind of a hands-on look at what this does and how it does it and the interface and all of that stuff. So really looking forward to our first office hours.
Absolutely. I'll bring some experts along and we'll show you everything you want to see.
Sounds great. Well, have an awesome day, Gill.
Cheers.